place, it used that figuratively, like Port Harcourt or River State is where he's used to, and it's more like a home for him. And so his function is just for stability. But then, like a man who is trying to stamp his foot, you know, to make a point and to say, I'm here to work and I need people to work with. There have been development in that place in terms of appointment. We heard that he has appointed. Now, there was a couple of resignation from the head of service, from the former SSG, Dr. Tammy Danagogo, and immediately those positions have been filled, and he has appointed as SSG Professor Ibibia Loki Urika, and he did that a few days ago. And he said, in the words of Vice Admiral Ibas, retired, he said, let me start by congratulating the newly sworn-in secretary to the River State government, Professor Ibibia Loki. And he said, your appointment is not merely an administrative decision, it is a statement of intent. And he said, to our new SSG, the task ahead is onerous, but your track record leaves no doubt in our minds as that you will prove your mettle. River State needs your intellect, grit, and unwavering dedication. And he said, like I mentioned in my meeting address, this administration is committed to delivering effective governance, one anchored on transparency, accountability, and service. Now, the conversation is not just about the SSG, it's about the appointments that have been made and what we have seen, you know, so far with what is happening. Many persons are asking, this decision that Mr. The Vice Admiral retired, Vice Admiral Ibas, the sole administrator of River State, is he unilaterally taking those decisions, or is working up a script by the person who appointed him, that's Mr. President? Not just about the SSG, many things have been seen, and there are rumors that he has taken some decisions that are drastic, you know, in form of relieving some persons of their appointment or their grip on that state. We have with us today, you know, a public affairs analyst, social commentator, and the DG at the Heritage Center, Dr. Kach Ononiju. Thank you, Dr. Kach, for joining us today. Good morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
Right, thank you very much.
River State are really fast.
Yeah, for joining us. Doctor, what do you think is happening in River State? Is it a case of a man who is trying to stamp his feet to say, I am here and I will take responsibility for whatever happens, or is a man that is acting out a prepared script?
Well, what I would say is the administrator has taken his position. And as you saw, when he arrived, we noticed there are a lot of
All right. Dr. Ononiju? All right, we'll try and establish that connection because Daniel, the situation in Rivers is the one that is was tense before and maybe still tense now. Absolutely. That needs a lot of being careful. And of course, Dr. Kach, are you with me now?
Yes, I am with you.
Please go ahead.
What he has done now, he has appointed a principal secretary. He has also gotten the people in River State to understand that he is not in support of the conflicting instructions that were coming from the previous appointees vis-a-vis commissioners. And so what he has done yesterday is to appoint a principal secretary to the state administrator. Well, people now took it to become the work of chief of staff. I don't think that's what it is. In a clarification, he said that who he appointed was a principal secretary to himself. And that's what he has appointed. And that principal secretary will take instructions from him. So I think the press got it wrong. And then they were now in the palace that is the chief of staff. No, that what he appointed was a principal secretary himself. Now, some of the most drastic things we have seen is like yesterday, he has asked the 27 lawmakers who are inside the heat of this crisis to abandon the government allocated places that they were living in. Now, that means also that same instructions have been given to commissioners of vacate offices. Same thing has also been told to quite some specific people whom he said were appointed by the previous governor, like the boards of parasitos have been dismantled. So everything in Rivers State is back to the ground zero as far as political appointments are concerned, including the special advisors. The special advisors are also in line with the commissioners to now be seen to have been sacked.
All right, Dr. Koch. Wow, so much for technology.
Absolutely. I was going to mention that before he said it. Actually, he sacked all the political appointees, special advisors, senior special assistants, all of them, commissioners. So all of them have to return. Yes, all of them have to return everything in their possession to the government. So hand over to the most senior person in their ministry or department or agency, or to the permanent secretary, as the case may be. So that's what's going on. So as it is right now, he has dissolved everything. And like Dr. Koch said, everything is now on ground zero.
Right.
So he's starting from scratch, starting all over again. So what it simply means technically is that he'll be making so many appointments for people to be taking over all those, ministries, departments, agencies. So it's an overhaul of the system.
That's the right word.
Total overhaul of the system.
But, so many questions, and we hope the technology cooperates with us this morning. The appointment was supposed to be for 6 months. So why taking so much drastic decision?
Yeah, this looks more like a long-term, decision, long-term plan. Yeah, that's what it looks like.
He has just spent like a week. He has taken this decision. Yeah. That's why I asked that question. Is he just a man trying to be in charge and make decisions for himself and bring on board people he wants to work with? Or there is an unseen script that is acting out layers after layer?
Absolutely, because 6 months looks temporary, but he is making permanent decisions.
All right, Dr. Koch, are you with us now?
Yes, I am with you.
All right, please go ahead.
He is, according to his positions, making very, very vital appointments that he will use to work. And I think we should follow that. There are, whatever it is, whatever Fubara comes, Fubara has every right to reinstate these people. Some of the people he probably will appoint, he will disengage. I don't think he will be able to appoint people to replace them. But he has every right to appoint those who will work with him. And I believe that's what he's doing. So he's gone back to the president. And from what I gather, the president was supposed to also have appointed for him a principal staff officer, which wasn't done. But after yesterday's consultation with the Aso Villa in Abuja, it was agreed that he now get a principal staff officer attached to himself, as it is in the military, to actually answer to his whims and calls. And then for the sake of the cross instructions, they were still coming from the commissioners and other people that were not sacked by the proclamation that declared the state of emergency. He now took it upon himself after clearance from Abuja to now remove the chief of staff who wasn't proclaimed, and then the commissioners who were not proclaimed, and then the special advisors that were not proclaimed, plus the members of the parasitos boards, and as he deems fit, those he thinks that should not be given instructions that do not flow from him. But then this is the beginning of a very long day. That's what I would say. This is morning on a long creation day. So let's be very, very attentive to what's going on in Rivers State, because they are coming, and they're coming very, very fast. So we may not get the full gist at inception because of the cross reportage. But of course, as things settle, we'll come to find out. What he said he appointed is not the chief of staff. According to him, he got permission from the Aso Rock Villa to appoint for himself a principal staff officer to the sole administrator of Rivers State.
All right, Dr. Ononuju, like you have said, the sole administrator of Rivers, he has the right to appoint the people he trusts to work with him, which is absolutely true. But again, some people will say, looking at the the duration of the state of emergency. It is supposed to last for just 6 months in the first place. That this, the whole scenario looks more like, making more permanent decisions here. And again, Dr. Nonju, do you see the state of emergency in Rivers extending beyond 6 months? From everything happening, from everything going on right now, are there any indications that this state of emergency may extend beyond 6 months?
I do not think it will be in order for me to start speculating, because I know that the PDP governors have taken the nuclear option and rushed to the Supreme Court. So since we are supposed to be in a democracy driven by the rule of law, I just will say the 6 months is the first instance. So whatever happens after that, or whatever might cause that 6 months not to be full 6 months, could still come from the courts. It will be out of order to, in our analysis right now, outlaw the position of the courts. Who knows? The courts could still come tomorrow and based on the nuclear declarations that have been sought by the governors that have gone to the Supreme Court, this court might give an alternate position. But now that that has not happened, I want to comport myself to the things I cannot change, and that is accepting that Rivers State is effectively under the governorship of the sole administrator under a state of emergency act. And that's what we did. So let us look at the implementations of this Section 305 and how the current administrator will follow them.
Oh, all right, Dr. Nonju, if you can still hear us, I just wanted to draw you back to the question my colleague asked you. I believe you can. Okay, you cannot. Okay, if you get to hear, Doctor. Okay, all right. I just wanted to draw him back to the question you asked him, Febi. That this sole administrator.
I think he's back.
Okay, Dr. Nonju, if you can hear me right now, I just wanted to draw you back to the question asked by my colleague. In your opinion, do you see this sole administrator acting on his own, or as some people may think, is he actually just playing out a script handed over to him by the one who appointed him? That's talking about the president of Nigeria this time.
Yes, it will be in order for Nigerians to see that the sole administrator is an assistant to the president, that everything he is doing are seen to be due to the powers he has derived from the presidency. I do not think he appointed himself, no, because the circumstances around his situating is being contested in court, and he should understand that. So we should put all the blames and all views on the president. The sole administrator, in my view, acts on behalf of the president of the Federation of Nigeria, and that's where he should be seen. He's not there by himself. So whatever it is, because if you look at the act of the telling the 27 lawmakers who were at the particular center of the crisis to leave the government provided housing places where they were staying. Yesterday, they were told to vacate those government houses. You should understand that that is a far-reaching issue that could even tell you that both Governor Wike and Governor Sim Fubara are out of it. It is clearly in the hands of the president. Yes, the fight that brought about this could be described as a Winthrop Brothers fight to the finish. People from outside will come and look after their farmlands and other things. That's actually what's going on in Rivers State. So let us put everything that's going on to be in line with what the president wishes. And the president wished that Administrator Ibas be sent to Rivers State to do the administrating he has done. And the administrator yesterday has demanded from the president further authorities to appoint for himself a principal staff officer, and that he has done. So I think we should take that the way it is and abandon all this attempt to, speculate. Where it is right now, the administrator, in all laws and purposes, is acting on behalf of President Bola Tinubu from Abuja.
Right. you know, from the political angle, the warring parties before now have been the Sim Fubara camp and, of course, the Yeson Wike camp and, you know, Martins Amaule led House of Assembly, 27 of them, and the other 4 loyal. That was the part led by Victor Kojumbo, in which that Supreme Court order told all of them go and work together as a state House of Assembly. So now that Governor Sim Fubara has been suspended, Ngozi Odu, his deputy, has been suspended. All of the House of Assembly members have been suspended. Now, with the recent development that we are hearing, that many of the appointees, in fact, all of the appointees on each side, all of the sides have been relieved of their duties, and some of them told to even vacate and drop whatever instrument of office they have in their hands with the most senior person in their MDAs. Are you now seeing that in this particular case, because some of them, initially people were saying the president was biased by sacking Sim Fubara, the deputy, and all of those guys, leaving out Wike, politically speaking. Do you not think that the president, Bola Tinubu, has taken charge of everything in that case, and he has cut Sim Fubara to size and Wike to size? Do you see it from that way?
That is exactly what I see. Because in asking Wike's acolytes and followers in the House of Assembly to vacate the government premises where they reside right now, which Governor Sim Fubara didn't even do during the crisis, you should understand what that means. And so wherever it is, even if it is done to give the impression that he is fair in dealing with all sides, that's a good one, you know, because that's how most of us calculate this misunderstanding. If you're pushing Fubara's side, what have you said? What have you done about Wike's area? So now we know that Wike's legislators have been asked to vacate the House of Assembly premises and wherever it is that they are.
Sorry to butt in. Is it just Wike's? Is it just the legislators that are loyal to Wike, or the legislators? Because all of them were suspended.
That's what I'm telling you. But the majority of the legislators in this act were the ones who are loyal to Wike. So the fact that they've all been asked to vacate their places provided for them by the Rivers State government, that tells you a further extension of a scorched earth strategy in which the pros and cons in this arrangement get all affected in decisions of bringing the man from our side. But it's very good that the administrator has stated that he is a son of Rivers State, which is true because he's from the Niger Delta, so he's part and parcel of them. I'm sure it will be easy for leaders and stakeholders in Pandef to reach to him and guide him to actually do the right thing for the entire zone, never mind the combatants engaged in this current feud, which is Minister Wike and Governor Sim Fubara.
All right, Dr. Ononiju, you talked about the members of the House of Assembly, Rivers State House of Assembly, led by Martins Amaule. This group actually supported the emergency rule. Now they've been asked to vacate the official quarters. The premises are located to them. Where does that leave them? Do you think this will come as a surprise to them? And number two, Dr. Ononiju, how do you think this will affect democratic rule in Rivers State? Some people see it as an erosion of democratic governance in the state. The National Democratic Coalition, NADECO USA, came out with a statement saying that why should the president take such a decision? That here's a president, the president of Nigeria, who is still struggling with the problem of legitimacy. They claim that he still has questions to answer. How did he get into office? That he still has questions of legitimacy to answer. Then why then is he trying to erode democratic governance in a state, that Rivers State? NADECO is arguing that Rivers State, Nigeria is running a federation system of government, that Rivers is actually a sovereign state. Then why should the president act this way? That this makes the president a dictator in this case, whereas he still has questions of legitimacy to answer. What's your take on that, Dr. Ononiju?
Well, I will tell you that that opinion, which I have discussed extensively on other television programs across channels, is that it is right now in court. Okay, so it is in court where the governors are seeking, through a nuclear strategy, a determination as to the legality of that move by the president. But what I'm trying to say now is, irrespective of such challenges, we have to now look at what's going on in Rivers State. And what's going on in Rivers State is that administrator has taken charge. And in taking charge, as you rightly pointed out, he has now made decisions, which those who even at the inception welcomed his appointment are now seen to be affected. But that's where it is. You see, when it rains, downpour touches every roof. And I see that as the breaking of the dam in Rivers State in regards to the inability of the players to actually hold steady their own game in the demands of our democracy. And because they weren't able to hold steady, they have both lost out, and an administrator has been appointed. And in line with the law, the administrator is now acting. He has now taken decisions yesterday which have become so far-reaching that people on both sides of the aisle are now affected. That's what it is. When brothers decide to fight to the finish, people from their side will come and inherit their land. That's what you're saying. So, but I still believe the administrator is still making appointments of people from Rivers State. The person appointed that will cover the position or the duties of the commissioners or the members of the parasite or so sacked or special advisors will still come from Rivers State. He may have now come from the presidency from Abuja himself, and so brought with himself a principal staff officer to himself, the administrator. Those are the two people that will come from the presidency. And then when they will now go there, they will start working. They've taken charge, and they will work for the orderliness and organized execution of government prerogatives in Rivers State. That's their job. They will do that until when the president thinks that it's all right for him to restore normalcy in terms of constitutional rule. For now, there is no constitutional rule in Rivers State, but because of the administrator understands that he's being watched by Nigerians, I believe he'll be forced, as we are seeing now, to do things in line with the demands of the aspirations of Rivers people and the law. So you need to balance this thing. There are things that the presidency in Abuja will want him to do, and of course there are things that the people in Rivers State will want him to do. I have no doubt that is what will happen. It's not as if it's just one side's people having their own wishes met. No, as you can see from what you said, Wike's loyalists were affected by yesterday's instruction that they move out of all government quarters that they are occupying as members of the State House of Assembly. So that tells you when it rains, it touches all roofs.
All right. Doctor, some have been saying, and I think you alluded to that in a previous session with you earlier, not today, Joe, but earlier in the week, on this matter. And another of our guests, in fact, called what happened in Rivers State a coup. And to put it mildly, that this is President Tinubu ruling by proxy in Rivers State, in which he has been elected to be the president at the national level. Yet he still found his way, under the guise of the law, to be ruling, in Rivers State by the appointment of retired Vice Admiral Ibas. It is really ruling by proxy, or is the man who, will not just look, the way they say, so don't look and allow things to degenerate, one. Number two, we said that earlier, maybe I should reframe that question. These decisions, relieving people of the appointment and all of these things, the state of emergency that brought in the sole administrator was supposed to be for initial duration of 6 months. Now, this decision is looking more like, why we are not speculating really, is looking more like a long-term decision. If you have to be there for 6 months, why making all of these decisions when somebody will still come, hopefully after 6 months, to make another decision? Don't you think there's something here that is more than meets the eye?
No, I think everything the administrator is doing is in order. If an administrator is appointed to act for 1 month, of course he will put the structures in place that will allow him to be effective. If he's there for 2-3 months, it's the same thing. So it doesn't really matter. When he leaves tomorrow and Fubara comes back, Fubara will do exactly a reinstatement of standards that will allow him to perform properly. And you're talking about Rivers State. Yeah, Rivers State has had problems. Don't forget, the elections wasn't really proper in Rivers State. We are aware of annulments of elections and the imposition of figures. So we could also ask questions about how Wike and Fubara conducted themselves that led to the emergence of Fubara in the first place. So the anomalies in Rivers State have been a long time in the pipeline. So if the president now steps in because of these boogeymen had not been able to situate themselves properly in regards to the sharing of their loot of the electoral wins. And that forces somebody from their side, being the president, to come in there to emplace corruptions, which we are now saying is what's going on. I don't think that is too much to expect. I think that's in order.
If I may, Doctor, before my colleague Daniel comes in, there have been reactions to the development happening there. And, you know, there are some groups, the John National Congress, one, and the Rivers State Elders and Leaders Council have slammed the sole administrator, you know, Vice Admiral Ibos-Ete Ibas, retired, following the suspension, what they call the suspension of appointees of Governor Sim Fubara. And the Joy Youth Council has said that the action of the sole administrator, including the demanding for the records of local government areas, are aimed at looting the state resources. Ibas, in a statement in Port Harcourt on Wednesday, issued by his chief of staff, suspended the secretary of the state government, you know, that development. But then speaking on the development, president of the John National Congress, Professor Benjamin Okaba, said Ibas' action was illegal, just like his appointment. That's their position. And he said, and I quote, "It is all one component of multiple fractions of our Constitution. The Constitution does not provide for sole administrator or even in the suspension of a legitimately elected governor." And they quoted the section of the law. They said his position is illegal and whatever action is taken is illegal. It is punitive. They said tomorrow the man goes ahead to make further infractions. For us, there is no surprise. He might even set up caretaker committees at the local government level. There is a possibility. Groups, people are reacting, John National Congress, the Rivers Elders, to this development. Your take on that?
Those are opinions.
And he speaks to
which Nigerians are free to hold.
Yeah.
Those are opinions, as I said, which Nigerians are free to hold. But then, if you do not like anything the president has done, the right place to vent your anger is within the public space and legally in the courts. So I will tell you, you will hear more opinions. And of course, what those people have said, I don't know what they said at the time of the election when we saw a lot of voter suppressions in Rivers State. We saw the peak videos of youth corpers who were macheted, blood leaking. And you should understand, Fubara is a product of such circumstances. So whatever it is that Governor Fubara and Governor Wike did for us to situate Fubara in Rivers State, what I would just tell you is this probably might be just the karma catching up with all of those things that happened in Rivers State, you know? So I don't really want to put myself to worrying about the past. I have said it earlier, Nigerians should learn to live with things that they cannot change. So yes, you can say it is state capture. You can say we are in civil rule, not democracy. Those are opinions. What we now are watching and what me and you are discussing are the steps taken in Rivers State. The steps yesterday by the sole administrator to appoint a principal staff officer for himself. That is it. The steps taken by him to also disband appointees of government within the ranks of commissioners, within the ranks of SSG, ranks of chief of staff, ranks of senior special assistants, and special advisors, members of boards of parastatals, all those appointments given by the governor. He is trying to lay them to rest for one reason. Since he was appointed, they have been given instructions that have been flying at cross purposes, which does not augur well. And most of those instructions being given do not flow from his authority. And that's why he thought if he cannot get them to stop, he will disband all of them as a way for him to have peace. That way, everybody will now stay from doing what they were doing. What he tells them is stay all hands in regards to government decisions and allow everything to flow from my office. And that's what it is. So let us watch what's going on. This problem didn't just occur out of the blues. No, it took a long time in coming. It took a long time in coming.
All right.
It was during the elections. Wike and his gang, which had Fubara inside it, did what they did, emerged, and after that, there was now arguments about the sharing of loot.
Things fell apart.
And when that argument brought trouble and it brought national discomfort from the judgments of the president, he acted to proclaim a sort of emergency in Rivers State. That is currently being contested by a lot of people, guiding some people to even go as far as to bring the Supreme Court through a nuclear option, seeking for Supreme Court interpretation of the actions of the presidents vis-a-vis our democracy. So that is going on. But the sole administrator, in line with his appointment, is now setting purpose to establish protocols that will help him to rule. And that's what he's doing.
Oh. All right, Dr. Ononuju.
Yes, that might be the arguments from Abuja, the propriety of his appointment, but he is right now setting purpose towards providing the protocols that will guide him to rule either for 2 months, either for 3 months, or even for the 6 months as prescribed by the president. That's what it is.
Okay, absolutely. Now, looking at the whole scenario, Dr. Ononuju, the governor of Bayelsa State, Governor Doye Diri, has been calling for dialogue. He's suing for peace. He's leading the cause here, saying, let us dialogue. Dr. Ononuju, do you see this whole scenario? Do you think, that's talking about the former governor right there calling for peace. Do you think the whole scenario is actually conducive for dialogue right now? Do you think it will help peace talks? Do you think the Martin Amaewhule-led House of Assembly and Fubara are going to reconcile under these circumstances? And just to remind you, Dr. Ononuju, all the sacked local government chairmen in Rivers State paid a solidarity visit to Governor Fubara in his private residence to show solidarity, to say, oh, we are strongly behind you. We are with you on this one. So how do you interpret that move, Dr. Ononuju? The sacked local government chairman still paying suspended Governor Fubara a visit in his private residence to show solidarity. What does it portend for, democracy and the whole emergency rule situation in Rivers State? And how do you interpret that?
It is called structural posturing. Governor Fubara and Minister Wike are locked in struggle for control of political structures in the local government area. And the local government chairmen are the heads of those political structures in local government areas. So if the current champions in local government areas who have emerged from the last conducted election, which of course the Supreme Court have annulled through its judgment, have now come together as one party and gone to pay solidarity to the men who appointed them, of course that is enough to tell you that that structure is intact. So what you have in Rivers State today are structure walls. Those who want to believe with Governor Wike, former Governor Wike, vis-a-vis the people we know as the 27 local House of Assembly member, and of course, some other previous appointees who work with him, if they seek keep faith as members of that caucus, and then the ones under Fubara also keep faith as members of the Fubara caucus. There's nothing wrong with each caucus showing strength of unity by performing such visits. It is expected in politics, because what you have now is a show of force by the different caucuses. So there's nothing abnormal if the members of the Fubara caucus represented in the local government areas go pay visit to him, Sim Fubara. It's just the way people also expect that members of Wike's caucus will also be loyal to him. You see, that's why I tried to point out the instruction yesterday, which not only showed that members of Wike's caucus are also affected in the ongoing crisis, but just to tell you that when it rains, it touches all roof.
Absolutely. Just to cut in there, Doctor, very briefly, just to cut in there, recall that the sole administrator had actually instructed this chairman to give a report, an account of their activities for the past 2 years. Dr. Nonju, do you see the sole administrator taking any action against them based on that report?
Well, it's not, it is an honest way for any man who's visiting a new district to demand with authority an administrative glossary of what has happened. I think the sole administrator has every right to ask that he be given such a synopsis of what has transpired before he came. Yes, because government is a continuum. So the new man who takes over has every right to demand from those who were there before to please let him see a picture of what has transpired under them. That is very much in order. It's because government is a continuum.
But do you see him taking any punitive action against them based on that report? Do you see him taking any punitive action against these local government heads based on that report?
Well, it depends on how you interpret to be punitive action. There are actions that, if taken by the administrator by insisting that the right thing be done, people can then be punished for offenses of the past. And then that's legal action. That's normal in a society like ours, premised on the rule of law. There is nothing wrong with that. I see the administrator has all powers to do such. There is nothing that stops it from asking questions about incidents in Rivers State 2 years before he came. That's because he is now in charge. It's like Fubara sitting there and asking to be briefed about what happened 4 years ago and then saying he doesn't want. I'm aware of governors who came and they will take a decision because government is a continuum. The decisions of the government 4 years ago, I think we need to review. You reviewed.
All right,
because
Doctor.
government is a continuum. There is nothing wrong in what the administrator has done.
We are due for a break right now, but in a minute, before we switch gears, because when we come back, we switch gears and talk about other national issues, is the fact that when this decision was made about the appointment of sole administrator, the suspension of the governor, Sim Fubara, and his deputy, many persons saw it as illegal, and he saw it as a coup. You can declare a state of emergency, but don't suspend the persons there. And all of a sudden, this development that we currently have, that we have been discussing, does that now put legality on the decision of and the concern of so many persons about the suspension of Sim Fubara and the appointment of retired Colonel Ibas? All of a sudden, does that mean Nigerians are now accepting it, or is it because they are helpless, or is it not legal with what we have seen so far?
The president has made a decision in regards to Section 305. And those decisions are now being challenged by those who publicly mouth whose opinions against it. Right. And there are those who have gone straight to the courts to seek a legal redress in regard to that decision. But until the courts make any legally binding pronouncements, the administrator has to set to purpose and do his work.
All right.
And in doing his work, that's what you're now asking about. Is he in order to do? Of course, it's in order to do his work until when the court pronounce upon it, or until when the president finds reason to also change and rescind this position.
Yeah.
Yes.
We go on this quick break. Please hang in there. When we return, the program will continue. It's still Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. Daniel and I.